Hazel and Gretel. Once upon a time in a village there lived a happy family. They have two sweet children, their names are Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, my beloved mother died of illness. Since the death of their mother, they have been sad all day long. So that they would not be sad, then father took a new mother to comfort them. It turns out that this new mother is very mean and treats them badly. From morning to evening they were told to continue working and were only given one meal. The dry season arrived, and they had nothing to eat. The mother ordered the children to be taken to the forest and left them there. Father was very surprised to hear that. What are you talking about? Do you want the children to die? You really are stupid. If we don't do it, we will all die. Meanwhile, from behind the room, Hansel and Gretel listened to their conversation. They were scared and Gretel was crying. In the end, Dad couldn't do anything because his wife kept pushing him. Are we going to die in the forest? I have a great idea, said Hansel. Then he went out of the house and collected small white stones which, when exposed to the moonlight, would glow. The next morning with a loud scream, his mother woke Hansel and Gretel. Before leaving he gave them a piece of bread. After that all went to the forest. While walking, Hansel threw out the small white stones one by one that was in his pocket. As he walked while looking back, father became suspicious. What are you doing, Hansel? I was looking at the cat that was above the house, replied Hansel lying. Then they arrived in the middle of the forest. His mother and father went to the forest further afield to cut wood and left them. The sadness turns to joy after in the middle of the forest Hansel finds a butterfly and Gretel makes a necklace out of flowers. They are very happy because they can play with their new friends such as rabbits, squirrels and little birds. Without realizing the time passed, the sun began to set and it was getting dark. The sound of the beautiful birds is now replaced with the sound of the wind rustling. Without realizing the time passed, the sun began to set and it was getting dark. The sound of the beautiful birds is now replaced with the sound of the wind rustling. Gretel wept bitterly with fear. Hansel said reassuringly, "Don't cry, if the moonlight appears, we will definitely go home safely." Hansel took Gretel's hand and walked down the forest path without hesitation. "Sis, how can you walk without being flustered in a dark forest like this?" "Oh, the little white stone I dropped when we came, shines in the moonlight and it will help us get home." When they arrived at the house, the mother was surprised to see her and found out how they got home so easily. When he opened the door, he saw a small shining white stone. So that they could not collect the white stone again, mother locked their bedroom door. Hansel and Gretel became panicked by it. Before going to sleep they pray to God, asking for protection. The next day, like yesterday, mother woke them up and took them to the forest. Hansel is not at his wits' end. Reluctantly he picked up pieces of bread and dropped them on the road as he walked. But unfortunately, the trail he had made with great difficulty was eaten by the little birds. They arrived in the forest. Again his father and mother left them and went further into the forest. They also played with the animals in the forest. Finally night came. When the moonlight began to shine they headed home. With difficulty he looked for pieces of bread as a guide to the way back home. "Sis, what happened to the pieces of bread?" shouted Gretel anxiously. "Probably eaten by small birds." Then we can't go home." Within the forest echoed a loud howl. They were both very scared. "Sis, I'm afraid, are we going to die?" Gretel started to cry. "Don't worry sis, mother who is in heaven will definitely help us." Exhausted, they finally fell asleep soundly under a tree. The sunlight began to shine and hit their faces. Hansel and Gretel woke up to the sound of birds chirping. Suddenly they smelled delicious food. Immediately they ran in the direction of the delicious smell. It was like a dream. They saw a cake house. The roof was tart, the door was chocolate, and the walls were biscuits. They quickly approached the house and ate it. Suddenly there was a loud shaking sound. "Who is it, dares to eat my favorite cake house?" Appeared an old witch with a scary face and shining red eyes, then caught them both. Hick. 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 Delicious children, as punishment for eating my favorite cake grass, I will eat you. The witch roughly dragged Hansel into the prison. After that he said to Gretel, "First I will fatten the boy, then I will eat him. Now you make good food to eat a lot." The witch was very old and her eyes were getting dim. At that moment Hansel and Gretel held hands, encouraging them to be strong. "Be strong, Gretel, Mother in heaven will protect us." One day grandmother approached Hansel's prison to see if Hansel's body had become fat or not. "I'm hungry, how fat are you? Let's stretch out your hand." Hansel, who was smart, did not lose his mind. He knew that grandmother's eyes were far-sighted. She immediately removed the leftover bones from the blind grandmother, and then she held it. How disappointed grandma was that Hansel didn't gain a bit of weight. Disappointed, he intends to eat Gretel. Then Gretel was told to bake bread. While Gretel lit the fire in the furnace, the grandmother tried to push her into the flames. Luckily Gretel knew what grandma meant. She quickly turned to go to the front of the stove. "Grandma, I can't open the lid of this furnace." The witch didn't realize she was being tricked by Gretel and she opened the stove lid. Without wasting any chance, Gretel pushed grandma into the furnace. "Ah! Please! Huts!" cried grandma in pain. Gretel ignored the screams of her grandmother. Instead she quickly closed the stove door and ran towards the prison to help Hansel. "Gretel, you did it. Mother in heaven has protected us." Because they are happy to hug. When they were about to leave the cake house, they accidentally found a lot of treasure. After that they went out of the house, but unfortunately the road was cut off by a big river. They get confused. At that time, out of nowhere, a beautiful swan suddenly appeared. "Come on, get on my back," said the goose kindly. One by one the geese took them across the river. Upon arriving, the swan showed the two of them the way from above the sky. They arrived at the forest boundary. Unbeknownst to them, the swan is their mother in heaven. The swan then disappeared. After that their father appeared, who was very worried. "My dearest children, I'm sorry, Father. I will never leave you again." Then Father told them that the evil stepmother had died of illness. Finally they returned to life as usual.